So in this video, we are going to be looking at the if else statement. Okay. So looking at our previous example, we had gender here, and we are checking for gender. If gender is male, to do this, else to do this. Now there's an issue with this approach, because what we are doing is, if gender is male, it should print this message, say you're a man. Else, it should print you're a woman. Now let's change this to, what if the person provides typing something that is neither male or female. So let's say the person typed some rubbish like this. Now this is not a gender, this is not a valid gender, but if we run this, it still says you're a woman. So you can see that our program is misbehaving. So what we want to do is, if you type something that is not valid, it should print an error message that, hey, what you provided is not valid. So that's where this if else statement comes in. So now after confirming here, so we confirmed here if gender is equal to male. Now if gender is male, it should do this. But since we have the possibility of having something outside of female or male, then we need another statement, we need another check. Now we still need to check what the person provided. Is it female? So that's where we introduce another if here. So we say else if, like this, gender is equal to female, then print you're a woman. Now if you check this, there's no display anymore. Previously it showed us you're a woman, but now it ran the code, but there's no display on the screen. That's because when we come here, we said if gender is equals to male. Now gender is not male. This whatever is here is not male, so this was not executed. Coming to the next block, else if gender is female. Now this is not female, so this was not executed. So that's why we have a blank screen, because there was no nothing to be printed on the screen. So in order not to just leave the person hanging, because if the person is on the screen, the person will still be expecting a message. So the correct thing to do is here put an else. So whatever you type that is not male or female, we want to print a message. So we can say console.log your input is invalid. So in this case, we are assuming that the person typed or selected the gender. Let's say the person typed, because if you are selecting, there's no way you will select the wrong value, because we must have provided the right values for you to select. So let's say the person typed in the gender. So we say your input is invalid. Gender can either be male or female, like this. Okay, so this is a good response. So if you run this, we have your input is invalid, gender can either be male or female. So you can see our program is now behaving more properly now. Let's clear this console. I run this again. So say your input is invalid, gender can either be male or female. So let's get this male and put it here, and you say you are a man. Great. If we change this to female, it says you are a woman. And if we change it to rubbish, like this, it says your input is invalid, gender can either be male or female. Great. All right, so this is how the if else if and else can be used. So in this case, you can see that we had a situation where we can have something outside of the two values. So this is normally used when you have like 3 or more conditions, right? So when we have 3 or more conditions, now the if else statement is used when we know that we can have just 2 conditions. So is it that something is in this case, is it that something is male or is female, like this. And this can only happen if we are allowing the users to select. So if the users are going to select their values, that means the values were provided by us, and there's no way you can select something that is outside male or female, right? So if the person has selected something and we're checking, is either the thing is male or it's female. So in that case, we can use our if else. So we don't need to check this, and then we can delete this. So that means the person cannot provide any value that is outside of this. So if the person selects male, let's comment this so that we don't have errors. We still have an error. Okay, so the else statement doesn't need a condition, so let's delete this. Let's clear this console. All right, so it says you're a man, and then if the person selects a female, we have you're a woman. So great. So this can be used when you just have a select value. So the person has to select whether a male or a female. So in that case, the person cannot select something that is outside this. So we can use the if else statement. But a situation where the person is actually typing, then there's a possibility that the person we can have another value that is invalid, right? So that's where we need the if else, if, and then else. So after this if, we still need to check if the next value is female. If the next value is female, then do this. But if it's not neither male or female, then whatever you provide is invalid. So the else statement now covers that, like we did before. Okay, so that's it for if else statement. If else, if else statement. All right. So it works like a chain of conditions, where each condition is checked one by one until a true condition is found and the corresponding block of code is executed. So we can see, well, let's go back. Yeah, so to this, let's comment this. Let's make sure that it's running. Good. So we can see that we had a chain of conditions here. In this case, we had just 2 conditions, but the if else, if statement can be used with multiple conditions. It can be more than 2. I can decide to have another if here and say gender like this. Okay, so something like this. So if, let's say, we are using something that has more than 2 options, for the case of gender, we have just male and female, right? So so in this case, we have 2 conditions, but we can have more than 2 conditions. So that's why we said it's works with a chain of conditions. So first we check this condition. If it's true, we execute this. If it's not true, we continue to the next condition we check. So you are checking a chain of conditions. So we have multiple conditions and we are checking those conditions. And if none of the conditions evaluates to true, then we fall back to the else. So the else is more like the default or the fallback statement. So you fall back to it if none of the conditions evaluates to true. So this is another example of the if else, if else statement. So in this case, we are checking with we want to get the grade of the student of a student based on the score. So we say let score is equals to 80, and again this can come from somewhere else. This can come from maybe a computation where the score of the student is computed based on the student's performance. Now we have this if statement that is checking the score. So you say if the score is greater than or equal to 90, then you should say you got an A. So that means the student's grade in this case is an A. And else, if the score is greater than or equal to 80, then you got a B. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 70, you got a C. Else, if score is greater than or equal to 60, you got a D. Else, you got an F. So we can see that we have a chain of conditions being checked here. First, we check this condition. If it evaluates to true, this is wrong. If not, we check the next condition. If it evaluates to true, this is wrong. If not, we check the next condition. It evaluates to true, this is wrong. Else, we check the next condition. If it evaluates to true, this is wrong. Now, if none of the conditions evaluate to true, then we fall back to our else statement. So the else is a fallback. Let me just say a fallback to statement. So if none of this evaluates to true, we don't want to just have a blank screen, right? So we just fall back to the else. So that means anything we checked from greater than or equal to 90 down to greater than or equal to 60. So that means anything that is less than 60, we give you this, you got an F. So if the person scored anything less than 60, it can be 59. So from 59 and below, you got an F. So as an exercise, run this in. So how open this open this playground on your browser. You can get a link from here. So open this playground. So you just need to type this leetcode.com/playground like this, and you have the screen. Click on new playground and just select this. So when you open, you may have a different programming language. In this case, we have C++. So select JavaScript because we are dealing with JavaScript. So type the code here. When you are done typing, click on run code. So type this code, play with it, and see the responses. So that's it for this video. I'll see you in the next video.